Folks, what's up? You're live with DGL7. Today I have a very special guest, and I'm quite interested in this guy, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ian Carpenter from LiveOneTV, an independent media company in New York. Originally, it was called Ron Paul One. And after Ron Paul got out of politics, I changed it to LiveOne.tv.
I think we may have done this interview before on your stream, but now I actually get to document for myself because whatever happened to that stream, I'm not sure what happened, but now I'll be able to keep the record for myself. I do remember that actually triggered some of my, I remember you talking about some of these things before.
Okay.
But it's good to refresh. So the first question I'm going to have is, what first got you into the whole activism thing, right? Yeah, there's different people, like, there's different stuff that they get affected by. Maybe something you read, maybe it was some person who was affected you personally. What got you first into activism? It's just in general.
Well, I was moved by Ron Paul. I wish, that he became president. But that's all. I saw this frail man who I had prejudged as maybe being a racist and someone I wasn't interested in. I kind of prejudged him. But after I listened to former Congressman Ron Paul, for people who don't know, he served 12 terms of Congress and ran for president 3 times. I got to see him stand up on a stage with a bunch of Republican war monsters, Mitt Romney, Rick Santorum, all these Newt Gingrich, all these people pushing for war. And for the first time in my life, I heard Ron Paul very eloquently and calmly explain that it really wasn't in America's interest to be, involved in endless wars. So I was motivated by Ron Paul, among other things.
Cool. Okay, good to know. So the thing is that some people say they have like a certain ideology. They'll say they're socialist, capitalist, whatever, right? Yeah. Some people say they're conservatives, right? There's different labels. Do you have any particular ideology that you ascribe to?
No, I'm still trying to figure it all out. I kind of like, it doesn't sound very friendly when somebody says my ideology is leave me alone, but I'm beginning to understand that ideology a little bit more. For a little while, I kind of thought libertarianism was kind of cool, but really I don't like any labels at all. And I'm still trying to figure out where I stand on something like capitalism. It means different things to different people. So I'm not quite sure what my ideology is, but I believe that we're looking for a system where we can all get along. I mean, I'm just using the most down-to-earth expression I can, whether it's capitalism, socialism, or whatever it is. I think we're looking for a way so we can all get along and enjoy our lives as much as possible.
Okay. Well, it might be reaffirming, but I also share the same ideology on that standpoint. So, I agree. All right.
Well, and also I got to talk to a couple of anarchists, and one of them was successful in business, highly articulate. I met him at Occupy Wall Street, and all of a sudden he got me interested in anarchy. It wasn't anything that I thought it was. And so, everything's on the table for discussion.
I do actually usually label myself an anarchist, not necessarily because I don't believe in no government at all, right? Yeah, it can be, it could be useful, right? It doesn't mean that we have to have government all the time. It doesn't mean you don't have government all the time. But the thing is that often anarchists are there protecting the interests of the minorities who are, right, democracy, all these other things. Don't really protect the interests of people, right, disabilities, things like that. These people also need voices as well. So sometimes anarchists can address those situations. So I consider but I did, like you said before, no labels. You're exactly right? People say this, they say that, and then a lot of these socialist movements are led by some millionaire who's actually does Italian descent, or it's garbage. It's not. They call it socialism, but the rules are twisted to cater to the strong and to oppress the weak all the time. So yeah.
If I can add to that, I heard a couple of guys say also, we're not going to let any communists come here and try to talk to us. And I'm like, that's the most anti-American thing I've heard. If some communists want to put their ideas on the table, as long as nobody's using force,
yeah,
put their ideas on the table.
Yeah, what is a communist even? You're exactly right before. Different people have different definitions of what a communist is, right? They even had their own splintering off. There's like Leninism, Trotskyism, Stalinism. Then you got right the different people like Chavez and Mao. You have so many different branches. It's like, what is even right? Yeah, it's like being a Christian. You could be a Seventh-day Adventist, or you could be a Baptist, or there's so many different flavors of it. You're not really, it, you can't really just say this is what it is, right? It's not that simple. So I like that. And that's a more, by the way, mature answer, politically mature answer. I find a lot of people who are younger, I think, often make this. They pigeonhole themselves into an ideological framework, right, or a label, and I think that's very limiting. And I'm not saying that you got to start from somewhere, and but I do think that it's right to actually have. I really agree with what you said right there. So very cool. By the way, this is I'm going a little bit off the script and adding a little bit more my own personal stuff because I like a lot of things that this guy does. Right, we're actually involved in similar work as we're creating a media platform to involve ourselves in local and national politics. So we'll be talking about that later on, but this is a very exciting episode for me of the Online Actives interview series. Let's go into the next typical question, though, and that goes, I think you already answered to a certain extent before, but is there someone who's been super influential to your mode of thought? Or you said Ron Paul. Do you want to elaborate maybe a little bit on that?
Ron Paul, Thomas Sowell, Malcolm X, tremendous speakers and thinkers, high quality thought. I also enjoy a guy named G. Edward Griffin a lot. I enjoy listening to him and listen to him for hours. He wrote the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. And there's some great videos of him sharing his ideas. So those are, those are a good bunch for sure.
Cool. As in terms of like these you already gave some answers, right? You said it was they were powerful speakers. You said that they were deep thinkers. Is there any other particular qualities about these or Ron Paul, right? Are there any particular qualities about these leaders that made you like them particularly more than maybe the rest?
Yeah, I found Ron Paul to be extremely compassionate the more homework that I did into him. Whereas people who didn't really do any homework, I met some people who hated Ron Paul that they thought his ideas would harm poor people and disenfranchised people because Ron Paul advocated a lot of elimination of government regulation. The more looking at Ron Paul's ideas, I felt them to be the most compassionate that I've ever heard of before. And I thought he offered some very clear steps instead of talking in vague terms. Number one, we need an audit of the Federal Reserve. And also, we need to be laying the groundwork to eliminate the Federal Reserve Bank. And Ron Paul wanted, and people will tell you that the Federal Reserve is not 100% a government organization, that it's a private corporation that was put together by 5 banks, and that they very intentionally chose a name to seem like they were part of the government, the Federal Reserve Bank. People thought that must be a government institution, and they managed to get some real estate not too far from Pennsylvania Avenue and the Capitol and in Washington, D.C., and they put up a building that looked like a federal building. And I've been told, in actual fact, they're a hybrid, that the Federal Reserve is a private corporation. However, the president can appoint the director. And so I felt that Ron Paul, by actually giving us this plan to have the Federal Reserve audited so we know where these trillions of dollars are going every year, to my knowledge, it's never been audited. Now, the Federal Reserve will say, wait a minute, we had an audit back in 2004 or something. They did have an audit. They audited the salaries of the people who work at the Federal Reserve. They didn't include the billions and billions of dollars of American money that they're giving to foreign nations. And so the more I thought Ron Paul actually is very good with systems science, which is what Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai teaches, that you really need to look at all of the elements of a system to understand the relationships. And Ron Paul was the one who explained that when the Federal Reserve prints a lot of money and this money is flooded into the economy, that prices go up. And so it's a tax on poor people. And Ron Paul put that all together very carefully and explained it. He almost had the audit the Fed bill passed, which he tried to do several times. And guess who stabbed him in the back? And I do mean, as that expression means, stabbed him in the back and didn't vote for it when the vote was called. Bernie Sanders was the sellout. He had promised to vote, brought it to Fed, and when the vote came, he didn't, okay? And so that's terrible. And Ron Paul
that's interesting.
Ron Paul very rarely attacked people by name. In this instance, he decided it was important for people to know it was Bernie Sanders who promised to stand with us for that vote and then didn't do it. And the rest
Did Bernie ever give a reason for that?
Well, that's exactly what that would be great. That would be great journalism. And now you've pushed me. That's right. I'd like to reach out to Mr. Sanders and give him a moment to explain why he didn't vote for it.
Sounds like a reasonable request to me.
Yeah.
All right. So good to know. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is that I've had over 100 interviews like this with different activists. Some of them got kicked off of YouTube. So if you see the number a little under, that's why, because anything to do with COVID got wiped out. But just so you know, just to let my viewers understand and, other activists understand, what are you, so I want the answer to be something related to activism, right? Some people sometimes say, oh, I'm proud of my children. Or they say like, I'm proud of my music. By the way, you're a very accomplished musician. Much props to you. But as in terms of activism, what are you most proud of achieving?
Okay. Well, I felt I did everything a citizen could do to inform the federal government that former presidential candidate Mitt Romney, well, I worked for the lawyers for Ron Paul. And before the Republican Party has their national convention, they hold state conventions where delegates are selected. And the Mitt Romney campaign had paid operatives who I was part of the lawyers. We identified by name, by address, by telephone number, people who were on the Romney payroll who went to state conventions, multiple state conventions, the same team, and they arrived at the conventions early in the morning. And we have a karate studio right next to us. You might be able to hear some of the drums going there. And what these Romney people did is they got hold of a piece of paper that's referred to as the slate. And maybe that comes from an old expression when they actually wrote on a chalkboard slate. I don't know. Today, it's just a piece of paper. And when you go to the state convention, whether it's Democrat or Republican, you go in the front door and they'll give you this paper with all the people who are eligible to be delegates, and then you get to vote for them. So at these state conventions in 2012, when Ron Paul was, really doing very well, he got more money than any political campaign in history. It's on Wikipedia. It's called the Ron Paul Money Bomb, $5 million in 24 hours, $6 million at the end of the week, none of it from Wall Street. Yeah, they didn't tell the people that. Nobody knows about that. Thank God, at least there's a little bit of a record left of it. Ron Paul was doing really well, and Mitt Romney was losing. So they got a team that went state to state early in the morning. They got a hold of the slate, and if it was on a white piece of paper, they used a white piece of paper. If the type font was New Times Roman, the Romney team used New Times Roman. If it was Arial type font, the Romney team recreated the slate and eliminated the names of the Ron Paul candidates, the people who were eligible to become delegates, And they eliminated and they replaced those people's names with Ron Paul's supporters, but who were not eligible to be delegates. And if the paper was an orange piece of paper or a green piece of paper or white, the Romney team copied it. And their paid operatives came to the convention early. They put on Ron Paul t-shirts. I have the video of it. Of course, I have the video of these people walking around wearing Ron Paul t-shirts, Ron Paul buttons, and handing out these slates. And the people at a convention, if you go to a state convention, people have donuts and coffee. They're sometimes held in auditoriums or gymnasiums or convention centers. And people are seeing their neighbors and friends, and they're caucusing and talking. And there'll be little tables where people have pamphlets. And in all of this confusion, you know, then you go sit on a chair and somebody has a microphone and the sound isn't very good, or no, you can't hear, and who's going to be voting here? And they held the votes, and Romney stole the nomination from Ron Paul. And there is no question Ron Paul was the true winner. And I knew this intimately. I had people from the state conventions who I know by name, and we talked on the phone, and they sent me video. They took video of these people. They even brought one of Romney's people to a policeman. There was a policeman in the convention center, and they said, hey, this guy's handing out fake slates. The policeman didn't fully understand it. He got on his microphone for a minute, but nothing came of it. So I took the video, and working with the lawyers, I submitted it to the FBI. Robert Mueller was the FBI director. And I'm proud to show those letters to anybody. I actually posted them on my X feed, the letters that went to the FBI, to Robert Mueller. They were no bullshit. There wasn't any fat. I didn't try to hype. I didn't try to persuade. I gave them the evidence and the names of the people who did it and the video. It was, the FBI did get back to me. They called me on the phone and I talked to a couple of people at the FBI. And then the lawyers wrote another letter. The FBI did nothing. Nothing. Left me very vulnerable. And then I thought, all right, to hell with the FBI. And I gave the materials to a guy named Preet Bharara. Even though the election was over by that point, he was the head of the New York U.S. Department of Justice here in New York. Neither of these guys did anything. And the letters that I sent them were 100% professional. You know, most of the things that I write, I look back at it a week later and think, what the hell was I thinking? I look back at that letter and I respect myself. I did as much as I could. As much as I could. The FBI didn't do crap. And this was way before they were pushing Russia collusion and stealing the election from Donald Trump. They did it to a 5-year military veteran. Ron Paul was a 5-year U.S. Air Force vet. And he also is the strongest anti-war congressman and presidential candidate I've ever heard in my life. And the FBI did this to a doctor, to a 5-year veteran with the Air Force. And I talked to Ron Paul about it personally. Okay, I had a little time with him personally, and I said, you know, people have to know this. This is terrible. And he was very honest and practical. He said, people don't care about it. And he just let it go. And I found out many people don't care about it. But anyway, so we didn't get there. We didn't win the war. We didn't win the battle. I lost. But I can't imagine being able to do anything more than I did. And after, in a depression, I was very, very depressed about it. I built this thing behind me, which is the Capitol Mouse House, a total replica of the building in Washington, D.C. And it's 8 feet by 5.5 feet and 4 feet in depth. And I filled it with real rodents, okay, dozens of them. We were going to put rats. The rats were too strong and too dangerous. Of course, I wanted to use rats. And eventually, I just ended up with a bunch of mice, dozens of mice, and the lid comes off, and I put little GoPro cameras in there. And it was just a lighthearted joke, and nothing more than that. It doesn't go deeper than, you know, these people, they're ruining our lives by eating all the cheese, our cheese. And then I drop it. That's the end of the little joke. And then the other thing I did is I created Focus 535. There are 535 people who work in here. Focus 535 is a homework group. And with other people, we talk about these people and their records and their challengers. If we don't talk about their challengers, we're not doing a very good job. So it simply means the American people need to become more familiar with 535 people. And it shouldn't be that hard to do. There's a lot of sports fans who track a lot of data for a season of baseball, football, basketball. They know the names of all the players, the numbers on their uniform, what their statistics are. They know the name of the ref. They know the name of the assistant coach. People track all this data. Can't we do it for 1 or 2 years and track what these clowns are doing in a calm way? And that's, as you know, I've been telling you about Focus 535. I can't wait to have you part of our review. And I'll wrap it up by saying I recently got an AI subscription, and I did a little background record check on all of the people in Congress. How many of them support the Ukraine war? How many of them get money from the Israeli-American Political Action Committee? How many of them supported sending more weapons to Gaza? How many of them supported Section 702, where the government is surveilling all of us actively and analyzing our private records? The government just passed that about 3 weeks ago, by the way. Or last week, the government passed automatic registration for selective service. So when I registered for the US military, I filled out a piece of paper and, you know, there was not an active draft, and I sent it in. Well, that's all over. If you're 18 years old, they've just automatically registered you. All right. So I used AI to get these nice, clean reports on every member of Congress. Boom, boom, boom. I was shocked, absolutely shocked. The level of betrayal that's going on in this building fully explains the array of nightmares that are happening all around the country. So yes, I'm glad I did. I'm just trying to sort out this mess so that people can get more enjoyment out of life. And I got a lot of my ideas from those people I mentioned, and I'm still getting new ones every day.
You're doing significant work still on. I know you're involved with a lot of high value work that I'm actually, there's what he talked about right now is very significant, but he's done a lot more, and I respect a lot of your work.
Yeah, I use Twitter and hold these Twitter spaces for Focus 535, and we've been interviewing people who are already in office, and we interview their challengers. But I found that the people on X, unfortunately, I haven't been able, you know, I do have a small group of friends, and we do proceed forward with Focus 535. I know quite a bit about the people in Congress and their challengers, but I couldn't find much interest in the bigger groups. I could go on to a Twitter, I still call it Twitter, go on to a Twitter space with over 1,000 people, and all of them angry as hell at the government, angry at their senators and congressmen, mad as hell, but none of them willing to put in like 20 minutes a week and participate in our Focus 535 project. So I'm still doing it, but I don't foresee it as having the impact that I really would like it to if we, you know, have a little better luck or maybe better presentation of the show. We're still working on it.
So let me see if I can get this straight. The thing is that I believe that you're talking about you want to have like local people come on the show to talk about the different 535 members running for office?
Especially in their state. It's not that many people. If you just want to keep it to federal officials, we want to know who you're going to choose for president, for Senate and Congress. And we also include the governors because they're very influential. So that's it for people. And then we encourage people to have one-to-one experiences if they can. You know, Congress people don't even answer the phone or your emails anymore, okay? They don't even bother. But if you can, to have some one-on-one experience, we call that qualitative research. And then we look at their actual record. That's the quantitative. We look at how they vote. And so it's simply, to use one word, familiarity. We want to be familiar with who they are. And, and we want to make it interesting. Like, I got the idea from Ralph Nader too, by the way. He said, most people are not interested in politics. You have a small group of political animals and they can talk all night about it. But that's a small group. And most people in America, they're not into it. They're into cigarettes. Most people in America are into lottery tickets. Most people in America are into professional sports. And politics is way down on the list. Ralph Nader told me, if only you could make a program about all these rats in here and make it as exciting as any mainstream television show or better. And so I've been thinking about that a lot, you know, like I'm thinking of using a laser beam and having a giant map of the USA and going, and tonight we're looking at Wyoming, da-da-da-da, and the laser goes, and we go in on the state of Wyoming. We go, the governor is Governor Johnson, and the senators are Senator Murkowski and Senator Phillips, the Congress people. And, we analyze them. We know where they stand. And then
this is an interesting concept. We'll talk more about that after the show. By the way, if you guys want to contact Ian, we'll have at the end of the interview, just go to the end. We will actually capture Ian's. No, it'll probably be in the middle because we'll do a post, but we'll also capture Ian's contact information. Actually, why don't you just share it right now? How can people find you? How can they contact you? How can they look up your work? I know you have a website. Go ahead, shout it out.
Yeah. So we do have a website, LiveOne.TV, but I have a little manpower problem here, so it kind of gets cobwebs. I've been using Twitter X as a kind of more frequent posting platform, and we are on Twitter, or X. The name is @LiveOne_TV. And that's where some of this material gets posted, and we hold the spaces on Focus 535. I kind of need some people to nudge me and push me. I mean, I've got about 20 or 30 people who are pretty devoted to it, but that's not what we need.
Push you to do what? Post on Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter, it's @LiveOne_TV.
Okay. All right. Let's take a look at so the thing is that now I understand, like, you yourself as an activist. That's good. Now I'm going to ask some questions about activism itself, right? What do you think are the most effective things that activists can do? And also notice that there's going to be people that are maybe beginner activists, right? They are encountering some situation that they are struggling with, and now they're trying to see activism as a way to approach that situation. So from that framework, right, what do you think are the most effective things that activists could do for the average person?
I remember the first time I decided to walk down, I heard that Ron Paul had a headquarters in New York City in Soho, in a pretty cool area. And I'm like, should I go? No. Should I go? No. And then I said, you gotta go. And I called a few people and nobody was interested. One of my friends said, you're not going to meet any chicks in that political stuff. And why don't you come with me and we'll, pick up some chicks or something. I said, I'm going to go to this Ron Paul meeting tonight. And I went down there, and the place was funky as anything. It was this huge floor in a building, big place, and they had a ping pong table and a bar set up. Chicks were everywhere. And there was this other room where they had all this plastic hanging down, and guys were at computers. They were just doing tons of work online. And so I got involved. There was some ego, when you get involved in activism and you're just trying to help out. Sometimes there was some ego and powerful people who did things. I was like, why does he do things this way? That's not that. He's turning people off. The other thing you'll find if you're an activist getting involved is there'll come a time where people will say, this person might be undercover. So all activists kind of, after they've done it for a few months or years, we're always wondering, who in the room is actually working for the Department of Homeland Security or the other political party? And that kind of makes it more interesting. I'm not too worried about that. There were some things I did of activism whether it worked or not was the question, like sine waves on the highway or standing on the street. And you're just waiting for cars to go by and you hold up your signs. And I was involved in those, and I felt kind of stupid that I didn't think we were having any effect. However, I also made some friends, who had similar ideologies. There was a social component to it. I also learned more about how the world actually works. And I also got put in my place sometimes, because you can have an opinion, but do you really have knowledge and numbers? And there are some areas of government that are more than I can understand. I mean, I'm not able to understand everything. And every now and then I get cold water in my face and go, I've been doing this for 10 years or more, and I still don't understand how this works. But you want to ask yourself, are you enjoying yourself? And are you with a nice group of people? And it's good to have things like music involved. Ron Paul said you got to have fun because activism can be grueling work and empty your soul out too sometimes. And you don't make any money most of the time. And that can be, disheartening for a lot of people. We're basically doing this work for free most of the time. And we're trying to, take people out of power who have quite a bit of money and who are doing bad things. So sometimes it can hit the activists that we shouldn't even have to be doing half of the activism. If these people would simply uphold the Constitution, okay, we wouldn't be here. I'm holding a little Constitution right here that I got from a little old guy called the Walking Constitution. That's Ron Paul. If these guys simply followed the Constitution, we wouldn't be in the Ukraine, and we wouldn't be bombing 6 countries right now. Yeah, I said we're bombing 6 countries right now. It shows people don't even know it, okay? We're bombing Yemen. We're still bombing Syria. We're still dropping bombs on people in Iran. And we've been killing Iranian leaders and harassing them with drones. And we're over there in the Ukraine, using missiles, killing Russians now. We just killed a bunch of Russians with something called a TACM missile, which has 950 submunitions in the cone. Okay, we killed a bunch of people on a beach in Crimea last week. Americans killing Americans. So if these people here would honor the Constitution, those wars wouldn't be happening in all likelihood, because the Constitution requires a robust debate and a vote, and they don't hold it. So yeah, activists are incredible. We're insulted by people who we trust, and you got to take care of yourself when you're in your activism.
As an experienced activist myself, I really appreciate doing, because this is actually the second time we've done the interview, and it really, listening to a second time is really allowing me to digest the information differently. And I really, I think there's really layers to what you're saying, and I really appreciate the depth of experience that you bring and the complexity of your answers. And I really hope people actually, I think this is an interview worth watching a couple times, or at least it is for me, just to really understand everything that you're saying, because we're speaking on many different layers at the same time. So that's just how I see it. Appreciate it. All right, cool. So the thing is that there's different people that are, sometimes people will, one thing was interesting that you said is like people working together, right, to try to solve this issue, right? You said there's a community that forms. Sometimes people may join certain groups to try to help them achieve their issue, but they may feel like the group is not really helping them with their issue, or they're being asked to just do work for something else. Or so what do you think are best practices for organizations to make sure that members' issues are getting taken care of while still staying true to their mission? I'm sorry, I think you're muted.
Can you say that one more time?
Okay. So the thing is that as people like try to solve their issues, they're going to reach out, like you said before, and there's a community that forms. And the thing is that as people try to join organizations, they may find the organization may not really be helping them, or so. But then, if you're maybe running the organization, you also have to keep it on point with its original mission. So what do you think are the best practices for organizations to make sure that, individual like members' needs are taken care of while still remaining true to their mission?
I'm not sure which is a good example. Maybe Tom Fitton. I mean, he has this organization, Judicial Watch. And I don't know how much money they get, but I do know that he did use some of that money that was given to Judicial Watch. And they did a lawsuit in New York that was successful, and they cleaned up voter rolls. In other words, people who were still on the voter rolls who were not alive, or their names were printed twice, and all kinds of irregularities. So you could see that something was coming of it. Is it efficient in terms of the amount of money these organizations get? I'm not sure. Some people consider the Democratic Party they donate to the Democratic Party or the Republican National Convention. What are the RNC or the RCN? They think those are activists. That's their activism. I'm going to give my money to the Republican activists or give my money to the Democrat activists. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about Cindy Sheehan a lot and Code Pink, and I've heard different things about Cindy. But in terms of a mother who lost a son in a totally unnecessary war and who's put her life into activism, I want to learn more about Cindy Sheehan and Code Pink. I don't really know much about them. I'm not sure how to get honesty involved in activist organizations, but maybe they make a promise and then we should see the effort that they put in and what was the outcome of the effort.
They're probably not all good, not all bad, right? Like everything. So, all right, cool. Let's get to the next question over here. Very deep answers, by the way. Make my head spin a little bit. There's also other things I'm interested in talking about too. He's actually touching on some other issues that I work in, so it's interesting. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. So the thing is that what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that oh, I'm sorry. When you first started activism, right? You first started with Ron Paul. That was probably like 20, like maybe years ago, like quite some time ago, right? So since between then and now, you may have matured or learned other things, or leveled up, I guess you could say. If someone's kind of starting out as an activist, right, or maybe even more experienced, right, what's been your perspective shift change, or how have you, maybe it's changed you as a person? How do you feel like activism has changed you?
I think that I've met a lot of activists who actually, after working at it for a few years and trying to put in good politicians, they ask themselves, why don't I run? I mean, the actual job is paying more money than I'm making at my job, and I'm passionately involved in it. So I would think some young activists, or people who are not young but are getting into activism for the first time, you might want to consider running. You might want to run for office instead of spending 12 years trying to get good people in office. So that's something to consider.
An interesting take, yeah. I have my own thoughts on that, but we'll really say that for the discussion period. Yeah, that's cool. All right. So I think that you did very good on the interview. Just so you know, usually this is, I think that's usually the questions from the online activist interview series. We'll stay in touch after that. Once again, LiveOneTV. Check out his website. I know he's on Twitter right now. You're muted.
Hold on, DJ. Live One.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. You know why? Because Marvelli says one love, so that's why I always do that. Yeah, it's Live One. My bad. Live One. Yeah. By the way, I also encourage people to definitely check out his website. Twitter is actually algorithmically controlling what you could see and all this other thing. A lot of these big tech media firms are doing that. I no longer have faith in any of these platforms, but it is a free place to upload your stuff. But the cost is this manipulation that goes on. But very high quality content. I really respect your work, Leon. You're someone that I definitely look forward to, and I really appreciate your time here. And now it's time for, I guess, a little bit of, we can have some post-discussion, little chat over here about some of the other things that were brought up. So one of the things that was very interesting, right? This is not part of the official interview, but, sometimes we have like interesting discussions afterwards. You said that the kids should work on electing someone, right? Yeah. And that kind of makes sense to me, but a lot of times, these candidates often can't be trusted. You know what I mean? They will turn their backs on stuff, and their loyalty ends up being not necessarily the people who worked on the campaign, right? But to the people that are giving them power now. If you're no longer producing just in the power, right? Yeah, you got to go to a certain extent, you know what I mean? Or your concerns cannot and should not be prioritized, right? Why? Because they like you or something? No, like there's things going on right now that have to be dealt with now. Does that make sense to you? So maybe you're just telling them to tell them to learn the process, or maybe you just write yes. So go ahead. What's your response? Go ahead.
Well, I think that that politicians make too much ado about basic administrative tasks, but the type of politician if I had original ideas, DJ, I'd tell you them. Most of my ideas I got from the people I mentioned. And I'm slowly developing my own original ideas. But I didn't I wasn't born, knowing about the Federal Reserve should be audited and these other things. I like what Ron Paul said. There shouldn't be such a thing as women's rights, Asian rights, Black rights, children's rights, Native American Indian rights. There are equal rights. You get it? There's equal rights.
And one Division of Human Rights, actually, in New York State and in many states, Division of Human Rights that's often accessed by the disabilities community. And I think there's someone actually right now, I think actually maybe Camry Presley, who actually got beat up in her own home, is actually going to the Division of Human Rights to get justice. A lot of times it's a place of last resort. So that's cool, man. I agree with that. I've had some brush-ins.
Right. And the thing is, I'm probably the first person who doesn't like a politician when they talk about creating jobs. And the politicians can't stop talking about creating jobs. I'd like to tell them, go to hell. All right. Most of these politicians don't even know about running a corner store or a florist shop. And so here they are talking about how they're going to create tens of thousands or more jobs. Look, and this is where I come from. The best thing you can do are protect our rights. All right. And the way you do that is you stop the surveillance on everyone, because that's changing our behavior. And if we can't speak freely, we're never going to find the truth. So the surveillance, and they're all surveilling us, okay? The CISA, which Trump brought into law and signed into law, gives the government the power to collect and analyze all our private data. And so this is what they should be doing, protecting our rights and protecting the country. And once they do that, you unleash people's own creative energies. We'll create the jobs. And I don't need somebody governing me into a job. Let the people, when people, I don't even like using the word let, okay? The people demand to be free. We'll make the jobs. These people are sworn in to protect our rights, and they should focus on that. And that's just pure Ron Paul stuff. You know, that's all Ron Paul. He would have a way of making you rethink basic assumptions. Even Ron Paul got me thinking about the minimum wage, you know, because he wasn't necessarily for a minimum wage. And people attacked him on that, including me. I thought, yeah, that's pretty cold. You know,
I could see a lot of truth in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that's pretty cold, though, to not have a minimum wage. Ron Paul said it's unconstitutional and unhelpful. And I was trying to understand why, because there's people working in fast food places. They're busting
the poverty standard,
mopping the floor. They're getting the fries out. They're sweating there, and they're making very little money and can't support and pay their rent and whatnot. And so I thought about it, and Ron Paul said, it's true, you know, the idea, in theory, when you create a minimum wage, you do help a group of people. But by doing that, you've just harmed the most vulnerable people in society, who are even more vulnerable than people who have less than $100 in their saving accounts. We're talking about people who don't have the ability to generate the output that healthy people might have. They might be a little slow, they might be a little old, and they don't have the ability to produce as much of others, and there's no way they're going to get a job if the employer has to pay them $20 for an 8-hour shift. You know, for example, here at Live One, there were people who, a very elderly person asked if they could come and work here and just clean things up from time to time. They asked me that I never give them a schedule, okay? So they would work whenever they wanted. And I agreed to that. And I was not paying them. I was paying them a little bit of money because we didn't really need them. There's all kinds of people around the country who, you know, are participating in productive efforts. But the minute you implement a minimum wage, a lot of them will lose their jobs right away. So it's an interesting equation. You know, do you make the decision that's right for the larger group of people, or do you adhere to a principle of letting a free market work things out on its own? These are very dicey things. And, you know, I know people can get very angry when people suggest deregulation and small government, but it got my attention. It's interesting to talk about. And so is liberty. I love talking about freedom. Ron Paul used to say, there isn't much known about what a free society would actually look like. He said, we talk about it all the time, but nobody really knows. We don't have an example of many free societies in history. We started as a bloodthirsty, you know, dog eat dog or dinosaur eat dinosaur. And then we developed into tribalism and warlords, and different countries went through monarchies. And
at the top of the program, you brought up a very good and valid point, though, The Fed has not been audited. Where is this money coming from? What does the money even mean? Is it even solvent? Is it even real? Or is it all just some made up BS? There's right, yeah, and people say your value is right to dollar amount. That's one form of valuation, but there's a lot of other valuations that you make up a person, right? Besides their integrity, things you can't buy, right? Honesty, you can't buy that, right? But there are other things that are just like, spiritual like aspects or other, once again, you're a very talented musician, and you're full of energy and life, and appreciate my time with you. I know we're going to be maybe doing some events as well. You have a lot of personality, and that's also something that, we know the industry, though, likes replaceable shills, right? Who are actually, like you said, like in this minimum wage type of environment to quantify what someone's worth and to really squeeze it and to really play this little game. And, I'm not saying that game is, always negative, but it's not always good either. There's definitely, problems that develop. So very cool, man. A very cool discussion. All right. So just wanted to get a little bit of a clarification for myself on a couple things.
I mean, the ultimate dream of LiveOne.tv, I mean, one of the reasons why I made what I call the Capital Mouse House is I was hoping that it would be a kind of sensation and that I would get my 15 minutes of fame.
I do want to comment on that for a second, right? The fame and stuff, I'm not really worried too much about that, right? If it is what it is, right? Honestly, it's a hassle to deal with. I've been famous before. I think you've probably been famous before to a certain extent, at least in your circle. You're definitely a character, you know what I mean? And you're definitely someone who stands out for myself. So I've been semi-famous, whatever, right? People come to you with their problems, blah, 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 and whatever, right? Yeah, is right. Exactly. Someone's, oh, I want a job, Ian. Yeah. Okay, I got you, bro. You know what I mean? Oh, but I don't want to schedule you. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it works for you, but it's really on their convenience. They really, right? You got to work for what you get. It is what it is. Yeah, go ahead.
But I never got my 15 minutes of fame. Here's what I'm going to do if I ever get my 15 minutes of fame. And I'm going to do it anyway, whether I get it or not.
What can be useful, right? It has a resource. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the goals of the Capital Mouse House, once people start talking about it and laughing about it, and also learning about Focus 535, the component, which is the actual work and the serious business, this was just for fun. Okay. This was a juvenile gimmick to get attention and have a laugh.
I think would be really cool, actually, just talk about the 535. Like how they have those little like fundraising, like those temperature things where you keep raising the number. So the fact of the matter is that New York has actually a good amount of electoral votes. I do have a friend in Pennsylvania, right? Yeah, a couple people out there. I have a friend in California. Maybe also there's a guy from Nevada. He dropped out for a while. He came back, but we could actually start to, right? Maybe 535 all at once is too much, but we can start with some numbers and start to build up. And as we start to get closer to the goal, I think it's going to get more interest as it barrels on. But really, you're exactly right. Most of the people just don't want to be bothered with politics. They've been trained to become a freaking robot. Hey, that's your choice, right? Yeah. But I'm a sentient robot. I'm out here doing my thing. I want to have my freedom. I want to have my power. I want to run my stuff. And some people are all about it. And we're going to Pennsylvania, California, right? Yeah. Swing states. There's a lot of activity. I'm going to try to put some people into the network. I think it's a good system. What are you thinking? Maybe once a week, once a month? No, I think once a month is probably easier.
Once a week. I mean, Focus 535 really should be running 24/7. And there are some things going on, but I have a bunch of people, and they're kind of waiting for me to say, let's go for it.
I'm gonna put people into your network right now. I'm after this call, I'm gonna text you some numbers. I'm gonna recommend this plan. I like the plan. And if you want to do a weekly series and hit people in my network for different states to talk about it, I'll definitely hook you up.
We think we've already taken a couple of politicians out. The funny thing is, when we identify a politician, we have a little ritual that we go through. We induct them into the Capital Mouse House. And we've actually, we think we've got 2 people who've decided not to run again in the next election as a result of the work that we've done. And so it's kind of exciting. People can lose their jobs. It's all fun and games until you lose your job.
Wait a minute. Okay, wait a second. Okay. The thing is that you used to be actually have larger numbers as in terms of distribution of your content, but then you got the algorithm really chopped you up and really, I don't know if you got deplatformed, but your views went way down, right? Yeah, they're really shutting you out. How did you impact these people? Because first of all, these people, as you know, right? Yeah, they got a lot of games going on. They got a lot of this not-for-profit industrial complex stuff going on. They got their unions in their back pocket. They got their, You know, they got the other people in their pocket playing games, right? Yeah. Especially in special elections, they'd be abusing all this. You know about all this. So how did you really convince these people? Maybe they weren't that strong before, but if they had the machine behind them, they could do crazy stuff and still get elected. You know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you've seen it. So how did you really, right, with your impacted platform, actually convince people not to run? Like, are they real vets in the game, or were they kind of weak?
Well, I went through a very disillusional stage where our platform didn't get any recognition. I would have thought the Capitol Mouse House would have got more than 200 views, a bunch of rodents running around a giant model. Whatever. In the world of censorship, I also released the only video of John Lennon's piano teacher at age 97 playing a Steinway grand piano. I got the only footage of him in the world. John Lennon had a piano teacher, spoiler alert, and I got about 130 views. I also released the only video you can find on the internet of Edward Snowden saying that all Americans' private records, including politicians, judges, leaders of industry, little children, you, your family, my family, all of our private records are given to Israel. In the past, it was pretty much assumed there were 5 countries that the United States was, number one, illegally collecting our data, but then giving it to other nations. That includes England, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. It was referred to as Five Eyes. People have been referring to the Five Eyes for over 20 years. I'm sure there's a lot more than 5, but Edward Snowden revealed that our data is all given over to Israel, unredacted, raw signals intelligence. It's totally wrong, totally wrong to be collecting it, giving it to foreign nations. They give it to England and the UK, where you have a monarchy. And I also am the only guy on the internet who has a photograph of King Charles inside the giant surveillance center in the UK called GCHQ. And I got the photo because I downloaded it when Edward Snowden released it back in 2013. Unbelievable. A photograph of the monarchy, the King of England, inside the surveillance center, the giant hub. It's this giant circle. It kind of looks like Apple's campus in Cupertino, California. You know, the big ring? That's what they have for their surveillance center. The king was there in front of a bunch of monitors with his subjects. Well, we are no different than his subjects because he has all of our private records. And I don't mean he personally, but that attitude of people who are part of a tyrannical system where they think they have a right to all of our private data and we don't have a right to their private data. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's also disgusting that only about 50 people watched my video. It's called shadow banning. I've been checking out AI a lot recently and getting in fights with ChatGPT. I mean, real fights, because I start to get into understanding how it's programmed not to really give me the answers. And so I get into fights with ChatGPT, and I said, ChatGPT, I just asked you, this, and you told me that. And ChatGPT would say, oh, I'm sorry, I did that. You're right.
Actually, I do have a related question on that, actually.
Yeah.
It actually brushes up. Okay, so earlier you talked about Code Pink and Cindy Sheehan, right? Okay. What's going on with Code Pink and you?
What's going on with Code Pink? Other people need to tell me. As somewhat of an activist, I like to know what other groups are doing. And she really is a big kind of blank spot for me. I know she's been doing things for years. I believe they used to go out to Connecticut and stand in front of the shipyards where they build the nuclear submarines. I might be wrong on that, but I've been watching her do so much work over the years. I've also heard some negative things about her. So I don't know what's going on.
Where do you see this material?
Oh, on X and on YouTube and in conversations with people.
Is it
and
recommended?
Also BitChute and Rumble and all the others.
Is it recommended to you?
Well,
how is it recommended to you, and who's recommending it? Is it the algorithm?
I do follow Code Pink on X, so I went to follow them. So I do want to see what they're doing.
Do you see retweeting? Do you see a lot of engagement on their stuff?
Do I see a lot of engagement?
And retweets and stuff like that of their material?
I didn't really analyze it. I assumed she had a popular fan base and maybe even an income stream from her activism. I don't know enough about it. Like I said, she's still a blank spot on my radar, but I like what she's doing from a distance. I think what she's doing is great.
You know, I have a saying that says, trust those that bewitch you and not that those that they give you, right? If she's not personally interacting with you, I would just raise the suspicion bar. But you know, it doesn't mean that she's all bad, doesn't mean she's all good, right? So could be useful, but I will tell you my own personal you know, interaction with Code Pink. I do believe that they are part of a gatekeeping organization that is in league with PSL, that is in league with DSA. And just so you know, not saying that, you know, Cindy Sheehan's personally responsible for this, but I have personally emailed every single, I could even show you on a live stream later, right? Yeah. I've actually emailed every single person at Code Pink about, because I was the New York State People's Party coordinator. And I emailed them about a Harvey Weinstein type of, you know, sexual access type of, you know, corrupt, you know, stuff going on at the top of the People's Party, and about how this environment was, you know, needed to be stopped. And Medea Benjamin needs to stop endorsing this organization. Now, I just got no response. I heard from people that I know that inside the organization there was a little bit of a spat, and they actually tried to pull Medea Benjamin. They actually, I think they did pull Medea Benjamin out of the Rage Against the War Machine event, which is an insult to war victims like myself. Cindy Sheehan is not really holding anybody in an organization to task. I've been banned off the Code Pink server. That was I was going to show you. You can see that if I send them an email, it'll just bounce back, and I'm not even allowed to send them an email. So, right, because they actually blocked me from their server, straight up from the domain. So, oh well, right, and all it, because I looked up every single person at Code Pink and emailed about what was going on, and I swear to God, like a week or 2 weeks later, Zainab Day accused, you know, Nick Brana of sexual assault. So, you know, not saying that I feel like Zainab Day is 100%, you know, on the level either. I think that there's weird things about her as well, but you know, she was getting a paycheck from Nick Brana for a long time, while generations of other state leaders were emailing the People's Party telling them that they were being locked out, that there was money not being spent in the right place, and she ignored every single one of them. And when she made the sexual assault claims, she never brought up these issues. Really, what? No, she brought up those issues, but only with a certain set of people that minimized those issues, and really, right, and a lot of money went missing. So the real core issue was not even addressed to the point where Cornel West even decided to run with the party, which was weird as hell, right? So anyway, so Code Pink is actually, technically I'm at war with them right now. And
Right.
anywhere where they show up, I am protesting loudly and vociferously because of my victimization, which they are not addressing. So I'm not mad if you work with them, you know, but don't stop working with me. They may tell you to blackball me or stop working with me. But
Right.
once again, hey, maybe they're good people, maybe I'm bad, right? Whatever, it doesn't matter. But trust the ones who be with you and not the ones that they give you. If she never has time for you, then fuck her. You get what I mean? The day that she helps you, all right then. But until she shows up and helps you, she ain't worth shit.
Hmm.
How about that?
Yeah, well, I was surprised to hear Bill Gates, and I'm not crazy, he's not my favorite person, but I was surprised to hear him say, when we give grant money to some of these foreign countries, we know we're going to lose a lot of that money to SUVs that just are, you know, taken and they shouldn't be. And I thought, wow, how practical he is. I mean, he's being so straightforward about it. And I even know some people who were stealing. Well, let me not over dramatize it, but there were some problems with money that was raised for J6ers. And I know some of the people who were involved, and somebody, you know, was saying, hey, this person took the money. And I went and talked to that person, and they said, yeah, I did take the money. And I said, well, how can you do that? They said, well, I had troubles at the time. You don't know. I didn't take it to spite the movement. I'd been busting my ass. So, you know, part of understanding more is people might do something wrong, and you understand why they did it, you know, but it doesn't stop your overall effort. What I want to avoid, though, is that the activist movement becomes theater, that it simply becomes an activity or exercise for activists to get their anger out, but then, or their frustration out, but it's just theater, and then nothing actually happens. You know, it's like these great committee hearings where Jim Jordan rolls up his sleeves, right? The wrestler from the Midwest, and he bangs on the table. And then you got Josh Hawley. They're giving them all hell. These committee meetings, if they would stay true to the persons that they become in those committee meetings, we wouldn't have any problems. But it's all show, folks. It's all show. Forget those phony committee hearings, okay? Like they did with Fauci a couple of weeks ago. Okay, they're just using Fauci as a scapegoat. The Department of Defense has been funding gain-of-function research for decades. And most of the people in the government who are questioning Fauci, they knew that. They were just, it's all show. After those committee hearings, they turn off the lights, they go down the hall, and the next day they come back in and they vote to surveil all of us. They vote to bankrupt us with more money printed out of the Federal Reserve. They just voted to have all your children automatically registered for the draft. They just voted to reinstate Section 702. So I don't want to see activists in the street. I've seen this in South Korea. Maybe you could tell me if there's some truth to this, where there is a strong activist movement, and they even have uniforms. Some of them have their own uniforms and helmets, and they'll go into the street and they'll express themselves. But it seems more like an exercise that the leaders of the country are allowing just to let some steam off, and no real change will come from it. That's when I became very interested in people like Jose Vega from the Bronx. I saw him about 2 years ago.
I hate Jose Vega.
Jose Vega, you know him, right?
He bit my style. But the thing, he's also covering for the People's Party. He also engaged in Rage Against the War Machine. And it's sad because I wish I could like him, but he actually made a deal with the gatekeepers to shut me out so he could get access. And you'll see that his when he made that deal around the Rage Against the War Machine time, you'll see that his retweets and his engagement shoot way up. Just like Kevin Hart, they're making him right now. They're giving him everything, right? They're making him a guy right now. They're putting a lot of money and like marketing behind him, and it's fake as shit. I'm sorry to say. I like some of the things he stands for. He's actually saying the right things, but in the end, he did sell out some people to get there, and he betrayed, right? So a lot of it, you could say the words, but do you actually do the things? Like there's a difference. So I really like to, that's why I find it very hard to trust candidates in general. Even me and you cannot have all the same priorities or positions on everything, right? At some point, we're going to have a difference. Those issues may be serious even, and things change all the time, right? Later on, an issue could come up that affects you differently from me, and I have to make certain moves that you don't, or vice versa. And that's fair. You know what I mean? Things change, right? 5 years, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we're going to have some issue. We might even have a serious disagreement on. I can't throw all my... That's why I really believe in actually the Rep My Black program, which actually we're trying to engage more people to get involved in the process. And, exactly, people, you said it perfectly before, right? People want to, their form of activism. I gave money to this Democrat activist or Republican activist, and then you don't have to think about it. They did all their work.
Yeah, they think that's activism.
For some people, it is, right? So are those people less valid than you or me? They have resources, they have ability, things are happening. They are, in their own way, their own massive power units. So, oh well. And then that's why I loved this interview, because it was so complex with it spoke on so many different levels. So I really appreciate it. But
I always ask the question, why do we have government anyway? How about this?
Let me ask one thing. Okay, so Ron Paul, let's go back to Ron Paul for a second, right? Yeah, because I know Ron Paul. So recently, I thought they had a breakup with RFK, but you may have seen this. RFK recently gave a speech in front of this Congress. Did you see that? He testified, and right in the background, right behind him, was Ron Paul. Did you see that footage?
I did not. Ron Paul came to Washington for RFK Jr.
Let's look it up right. Let me see RFK testimony in Congress. Let me look it up right now. It was quite recent, maybe months ago. RFK testifies Congress.
Well, I know Dr. Shiva was very disappointed that Ron Paul gave RFK an endorsement.
I think it's okay. Oh, I found it. July 20th, 2023. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a while ago. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I guess they used it in a recent video. Okay, my bad. I think that was old. I'm so sorry. That was back when. Okay, my mistake.
Yeah.
They recently used it in another video program, and I thought it was current, but actually no, they were recycling from 2023. My mistake. I'm so sorry. Ron Paul, I think that he has also ties to the libertarians, right? And also, I think there was some play made there between Tulsi and also Nick Brown, unfortunately, and Angela McArdle. And there's other things going on. You can see that I have my libertarian sticker in the background right here. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, all right.
Right. And just so you know, earlier when you're talking about Thomas Queter, actually the Senate candidate for the Libertarians, right, as a disabled person, often finds himself restricted by right to repair issues, so he cannot repair his own wheelchair, and the restrictions placed on him being able to modify his equipment is something that he really resists against. So I know you're exactly right, but most disabled people are at war with the Libertarians, but I have seen it work together in actual together. So what I really have a lot of agreement with I think overall vision and perspective as yourself. I have my own media channel. We're really engaged in a lot of similar things.
I've been watching you before I even was doing podcasting. I was a fan of you.
What? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I was a fan of you before I was even podcasting. I was already doing activism, but not podcasting, and then watching you.
How much stuff? I remember you saying something like that before. How much stuff did you see, though? Did you get to follow the whole wrongful conviction stuff?
I have bad memory nowadays. I even keep a book here on dementia. I seem to be forgetting everything. I can't remember.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. And let's face it, when it comes to media and internet, I have every excuse in the world to just spend my life scrolling 24 hours a day.
Yeah, but I have a lot of different facets to my activism, so I'm just like wondering like how much you know about, or which particular facets you're more familiar with, because I find it difficult to believe that you would know about all the different. I put a lot of it out there, but even within there, there's just so much material. I don't think that you could even. I would.
No, there's no way. No, I didn't get it even close. I'm still learning about what you're doing. And I'm going to join you when we go down for Trump's sentencing by Federal Plaza. I'm also interested in going to Rikers Island, and you're learning. I think you're going to be actually doing an interview with somebody at Rikers, or you're going to go to Rikers. That's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, Stephen Lee he caused a re-examination of the NAP Commission and got me, spoke through him to Serpico, which was pretty cool. And also the guy named John Ong, who actually is quite significant in the Asian American field. About what you talked about earlier about Korea and fighting against those narrative manipulations. I think the riot gear was coming from the use of those in protests and stuff came from South Korea, but I'm not really I don't speak Korean, so I really do not have a lot of communications. I know sometimes they wear like a headband or they'll dress in all white, right? But that's Koreans actually were known for people that just wore all white. So it might be, traditional garb or, just armband or whatever, right? Yeah, whatever uniform they, but yeah, you're right. So some of it is the most dangerous activism is the one that just kind of like lets off steam and then it doesn't go anywhere. And I really feel like Code Pink, DSL, PSA is really involved in exactly that kind of thing, right? Where, for example, this is I went really hard for this person. Have you ever seen this lady before? Carmen Canones, the first. She's probably the best known tenant association president in all of public housing.
Oh,
okay.
First time I've seen her.
So the thing is that in this race, right, she was running for state assembly, and she could be the first tenant association president in all of public housing to win elected office. If she should win, that could cause a mobilization domino effect where, there's, I think, 20,000 registered Democrats in public housing alone. And I think that there's over 300 developments with thousands and thousands of people that become politically energized by a historical race like this. Her campaign got $4,000, whereas the progressive competitor had like over $200,000. And they were mad at her for taking away votes from progressive. But the thing is that, why are they not empowering someone from the community? This is not good. You can't just keep sending in bougie saviors, right? Yeah. Oh, he's a public defender. And the guy seemed like a nice guy. I don't want to say he's all bad, but instead of empowering people from the community, right, they're just there to the bougies have their own, right, dominance, and they're going to have their hooked up job and they're going to hook up their people. and they're getting $200,000, we're getting 4,000. Come on, man. This is not equality. This is not fair, and I'm not going to take it now. So, yeah, the public housing, that's another sector. Yeah, but I wonder how you're going to feel about my person in Tennessee.
General involved in the housing before that? Wasn't she the director before Letitia James was Attorney General? I think she was one of the directors of one of the housing committees.
Oh, really? It's possible. She was a former district leader, so she has some knowledge of the game. But there's other things going on with like Yusuf Salam and all kinds of. There's so many different storylines. But
PJ, I want to just say one thing to help me. People, if you ever get confused about where you stand with politics, ask this question: what do we even have government for? And I would suggest we have it to do things collectively that are not practical for the individual.
Makes sense.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
All these other things that government does, they shouldn't be doing. It's not that they're not good ideas, but special interest always gets involved. So the government should focus on protecting us and protecting our property. And also, I'm interested in maybe regulations for water, but there is, Ron Paul said, no, the regulation by government's never going to work, because you end up with captured regulation where all the pharmacy companies put their people into the FDA or the,
it's
oil.
natural. That's going to happen all the time.
Right. So we have a better court system. It's really, we have some big problems to make this society really function and have less harm happening to people. One is with our government. We could never get that functioning. The next would be our messed up court systems. Totally messed up. It was supposed to be designed in a way that allowed a poor person to be able to fight a wealthy company. It was designed to work, and it doesn't. It fails terribly. Our court system, our legal system is crap.
Well, there's people got
involved. I'm pretty friendly with this stuff, but if you really want to know about some local politicians, because I have done some in-depth research, if you want to get into Council Member Tiffany Caban, they don't come any worse or more tyrannical or incompetent than Tiffany Caban. You want to talk about Assemblyman Zoran Mandami, absolutely impotent and ineffective.
What you got on Tiffany? I want to know. What you got on Tiffany?
Well, Tiffany has known for 2 years that just a few blocks away from her office in Astoria, Queens, is the largest condominium in Astoria. For people who don't know, Astoria is right across the East River from Manhattan. If you're coming across the RFK Bridge, it might take you 15 minutes or less. So Astoria, Queens, it's also a film and television center in New York. It's Tiffany Caban's office. And she has known for a year and a half, and more than known, she has the documentation that the largest residential building with 410 residential units has a massive illegal storage facility that's privately owned by one of the board members on the ground floor, 40 inches across the hall from where families are living. They have, one of the board members has an illegal storage unit. The Department of Buildings has given it tens of thousands of dollars of fines. You can read those violations on the Department of Buildings official website by putting in the address of the building, 2540 Shore Boulevard. You have to know how to negotiate and get what are called ECB violations. You go down there, you can see for over a decade the DOB has been finding this condominium, and the investigators wrote on the reports, hazardous, failure to follow commissioner's orders to comply. And even the fire department issued a criminal summons because there's no sprinklers, there's no insurance, there's no smoke detectors. They violate the building's bylaws, they violate zoning, and they have no certificate of occupancy. And this is a pretty big story, and she has all of this, and they are ineffective. The units remain open today, 100% illegal. I'll tell you something. You know what the number one dangerous thing that people put in storage units in a condominium? They're called propane tanks. And people put them in cardboard boxes because they figure out we're not going to be barbecuing here, or we'll take the propane tank to the cottage, whatever. They put them in a bag, they put them in a box, and they put them in the storage units. And 2 blocks from the building I just told you about, on Father's Day, 3 firemen lost their life from a propane tank fueled explosion. The firemen's names are Ford, Fahey, and Downing. And their names today can be seen on Astoria Boulevard, the same street where LiveOne.tv is. And I've been doing reports on it and putting videos up on it. And yet, Tiffany Caban, I met her, I talked to her, we took our photograph together. She already had this evidence, by the way, for over a year, and she told me she was unfamiliar with it. Yeah, I know why she's unfamiliar with it, because she's an egomaniac, and she wants to socially experiment on us like Mengels did in World War II. Okay, I'm done with these politicians who want to experiment on us with all their nice ideas. I have my nice ideas, and we're not going to do them. And you have your nice ideas, and if I had my way, we're not going to do yours or mine. Why? Because special interest always gets involved, which brings us back to a small government and, you know, a small government that's involved in protecting us. You want to know why the Constitution is so small? Because that's all they could agree on. And so that's where I stand. And so Tiffany Caban is a blowhard, and she's doing it for all this causing. She just funded trannies for 3-year-olds on a government library around the corner from me. Now, I think it's great that, you know, we're accepting of everybody, and I mean that. I'm not going to qualify that in any way, but I would say, is that really appropriate tranny storytelling for 3-year-olds? 3-year-olds are still trying to maintain their balance. Okay, that's when they're 3. Is that really the right time to, you know, do that? Some people will fight with me and say I'm very close-minded, and it's a perfect time to make children with their minds open. All right, maybe it is, but should she be spending government money to fund these things? Because she gets a little budget to choose what she wants to do. That's what she did last month. She did it in the Astoria Library. Guess what? Right across the street from where the 3 firemen lost their lives. Anyway, what else does she do? I just think she's one of these Mengels who wants to experiment with us and whatnot. And I think it's good that she maybe wants to reform the police department, which is horrible in New York. So I'm with her on that. But
does she really, though?
Close the illegal fire facility that's endangering the lives of over 1,000 residents in the largest condominium in her district? She's been on it for 1.5 years and hasn't done a damn thing. I could even call her right now if the office wasn't closed. You could hear my phone calls with her.
Didn't Tiffany Caban want to run for district attorney?
Pardon me? Yeah, she did. She ran against.
So she wants to prosecute a lot of people and send them away, but somehow she's also the progressive anti-crime savior figure. It's kind of weird. Also, just so you know, I've also had the evidence on my channel when she actually went to visit National Action Network, I think 3 years ago. I have her and, you know, Mark Saffman, a deaf-blind man who she never helped. And also on that day, we also filmed Reverend Keith Gatz and Nolan Farrell, who literally has a letter from the Conviction Integrity Unit of the Queens District Attorney's Office that says that evidence used against him was faulty. We went there 3 years ago. We have evidence of, we filmed Tiffany Caban there with us. 2 years ago, we filmed Tiffany Caban with us, and she never helped us for anything. So she says she's all about helping, you know, innocent victims of criminal justice. I'm sorry to say, but if you look at the actual case, we've recorded this as well at National Action Network. You can see in the footage, you'll see her taking the picture, but as in terms of helping us, nothing. Not as advertised. I agree with you.
DJ, the big goal of the Capital Mouse, as I was trying to say, wasn't to become famous, but if I had my 15 minutes of fame, what I would tell and ask is for colleges and universities to create credit-based programs where the students devise an alternative new model for representative government. We don't need to rip this building down, but we should reform it, okay? And we should reform it.
Yeah.
So I think we need...
If I could just stick one thing on the trans issue that you also mentioned earlier. Sorry to interrupt that. But the thing is, just so you know, one of my key allies is actually a trans mayoral candidate who ran for mayor in Memphis, Tennessee, where Tyree Nichols just died. I actually did a post after Tyree Nichols died. We did actually a special episode with actually my ally from Pennsylvania, right? Yeah, and also another Dana Chavez, who actually lost a tenant associate president in the Lower East Side, who actually lost her son due to violence. Also I think that her son was killed by I think it was police officers. Got to look it up again, or maybe a criminal. But some injustice happened. I'm sorry, I haven't been really current with that. But the thing is that her being trans, let me tell you that trans people face a lot of unfair situations, right? Yeah, outside. And I'm not saying that what you're saying is completely wrong, right? I think that there's a way that trans people could participate with telling kids stories to kids in a way that's right, and there's a way that they could do which is wrong. I think it's right. Some people say just because they're trans, there's nothing they can do that is wrong. Come on, even there's Catholic priests out there that are doing wrong things to kids. It doesn't matter what the title is, right? Yeah, we have a right to say, you know what? Doesn't matter what we're just being fair, right? Yeah, whatever is being taught to the kids, we have a right to review that. We have a right to be a part of that and to have a conversation about that. Some people want to shut that down. But what I do want to say is that I think that if you want to bring trans people on board, right? Yeah, like once from Tennessee, she's probably the only real person I'm talking with from Tennessee. She was also cited by Justin Pearson in his inauguration speech. I don't know who that is. He was actually one of the Justin Pearson. There was actually two Black members of the Tennessee, I think, state representatives, and they were actually removed from office, and then they were reinstated. And all AOC and Tiffany Caban, they all ran down to take pictures with them and blah blah blah. Right? They were the heroes of Tennessee. And in Justin Pearson's inauguration speech, he actually cites Salamander Brandy, who's the person that I'm talking about. So I think she would be a powerful addition to the LiveOneTV 535 program. And I want to make sure that she's taken care of as well. And I'm not, once again, Salamander, this is not against you. And I could see where someone from Salamander perspective who's faced so much unfairness in her life, right? I think to get these people on board, we have to say, we do care about the job discrimination you face. We do care about, right? Yeah, the other aspects of your life that you're facing difficulties with. We cannot just say, oh, trans people in sports, they have unfair advantage, which I do think that male to female there is, right? Yeah. But what about the female to male transitioners? Like, we don't care about them, or, right? Yeah. Or the the other aspects of unfairness they face in their lives. We can't just be like, oh, you won something, so we're going to freak out, but you lose something, nobody cares. I don't think that they would ever accept it, and I would never accept that. I would never accept that myself. You get what I'm saying? So if we want them to be on board with this, which I do want them to be on board with this, right? Then we got to say, we also care about the other unfairness things that you're facing in your life. But we don't have to agree on everything. But you can't just say, we have to have conversation about certain things. I think that's completely fair. I'm sorry, you're muted. You're muted.
I think hate crimes are good. We do have hate crimes in New York City, and they're very, very serious. And as a matter of fact, I have a case right now that the district attorney has of somebody committing hate crimes against me.
But even outside of hate crimes, just housing discrimination, career job discrimination. A lot of trans people are really poor. A lot of trans people, right, are finding themselves like really disillusioned with the system. They're in the homeless shelters, stuff like that. Sometimes they're fighting in the homeless shelters. It's a rough life. I would not wish that on, right? Not saying that, I would not wish that on anybody I wish, because I think it's such a difficult, life to live. I feel very compassionate for those people.
Yeah, talking to some libertarians and people who are maybe libertarians with a small L, I think I'm going to sum up how I think about it. You can do anything you want, but if you go and harm an innocent person in my world, you're in big trouble, and a lot more trouble than people get into right now with our legal system. I consider myself generous to a fault. People can, make mistake, but if you're hurting innocent people, you're in big trouble. Now, that's the way I think it should be. And these little namby-pamby sentences where people are assaulting innocent people, robbing innocent people, harming them, and there isn't even a temptation. Sometimes you have to realize if somebody hasn't eaten in a few days, that you factor that into understanding why they committed a crime and stole somebody else's food or money. But we have all kinds of crimes that are happening. You call them gratuitous violence. And I would be much, much harsher on those people. And I would ideally hope that we didn't even have to have these heavy penalties, that we could create a society where communities and families are able to reach their children with good, codes for behaving in public. But until that time, If somebody goes out there and harms an innocent person intentionally, you're in big fucking trouble in my world.
Okay, so just just that's nice. I appreciate that. So Salamander Brandy, should I tell her to participate in 535? You cool with that? I send her the information, the email. That's the only person in Tennessee I know.
Maybe Brandy
very good,
come to the Capitol Mouse House July the 4th party. I hope you're going to come tomorrow, and we're going to rock and roll here at the Capitol Mouse House. Have a little bit of music.
What time is that going to happen?
And talking.
What time is that going to happen?
I was thinking maybe, people want to do things with the rest of the night, but we could start at 5 o'clock.
Sounds perfect. I was thinking the exact same thing. We have maybe get some burgers on a Burger King right there. Right, yeah. Flame broiled.
There might be fireworks on the East River.
Exactly. We just go to Astoria Park right afterwards. It sounds like a nice little hangout. I definitely gonna invite my friends. Tell them what's up. I think it's a cool spot. LiveOneTV. Yeah, definitely a hot spot.
And one of us needs to check. Sometimes they put the fireworks in different areas of the East River. We don't want to promise people can see the fireworks from Astoria Park. I think you can, though. And it's a fun
kind of all the way down, though. Yeah, it's kind of like you have to crane your neck like this. Yeah,
right.
It's better down further down. But you know what? I've seen the fireworks before, and honestly, I'm really not there for the fireworks. I'm just there for the people. So we're gonna see who hangs out, right? Honestly, the 5 o'clock, I might even just go back after it's done and just break out. But
right,
if I'm with the right people, then I don't get to really it's a little get together of the political maniacs, I guess. Yeah, that would be good.
Right. Hey, before we go, I want to show you something here. My stepmother gave me a beautiful book on capoeira, and capoeira is a art form of resistance, and it's created in Africa and grew up in Brazil during the transatlantic slave trade some 400 years ago. Slaves took very acrobatic movements that they did in dances in Africa, and they turned them into martial arts moves. So you have your spinning kick, which is even different than the taekwondo kicks or taekwondo kicks. The spinning kick in capoeira, the meia lua compass, is very deadly. And this book shows some people, I don't know, doing capoeira. This is from way back from the slaves. Picture of maybe Bahia, Brazil. And today, people doing capoeira today. And capoeira is not underground like it used to be. It was illegal to practice capoeira, but it is under the radar. People don't know about it too much. So I'm going to show you a musical instrument that they use in capoeira. This is called the berimbau. And capoeira is the only martial art that incorporates music. There's no music in boxing or karate. Muay Thai, they do have music in Muay Thai kickboxing, but the martial artists themselves don't play the instruments most of the time. They just play it in the auditorium or arena. In capoeira, the berimbau is an absolute necessity. And this is made from a hollowed out gourd. And you play it together also with, let me get these little things. You have this called basically a bunch of beans inside. That's your shaker or your rattler, and you put that in your fingers, and you hold something that looks like an extra long chopstick. And then they use a stone or a coin. And it is difficult to learn how to hold this instrument. You put a finger down here, you'll get blisters and it'll be bleeding until you develop your calluses. And then you hold the coin or your stone against a wire, which is here. And once the coin is on the wire, it sounds a little bit different. And so you can lift it off, the coin I mean, and sound like this. And so that's the berimbau, and capoeira, I believe, is really the art of resistance and tyranny. Much the same way probably all martial arts are, but it's an incredible story of capoeira. We're trying
you seem to line up to be a Tulsi head. Did you ever? That's how you found my work, correct?
Yeah, that's right. You and I talked about Tulsi and Prince, and I was talking to the Tulsi Gabbard campaign.
I think she was a capoeira instructor.
That's right. So here at LiveOne.TV, we also have a capoeira component, and sometimes capoeira classes are held here. And one of the people who held them is Chiba. And Chiba was Tulsi Gabbard's capoeira teacher. And you can go on to YouTube. Yeah, you can go on to YouTube and look at Tulsi Gabbard playing capoeira. She's good at it too.
I have seen that.
And so the guy who is also a friend of mine, Chiba, he's a superb martial artist. No drugs, no drinking, totally boring, right? No, but he's really clean, very polite, and absolutely deadly. Absolutely deadly. Wesley Snipes had Chiba perform in his TV special called The Best Martial Artists of the 21st Century. Chiba's really good, and Chiba's spelled T-I-B-A, like Tiba, but the Portuguese say Chiba. So yeah, Tulsi Gabbard.
The Ron Paul connection. So that's a pretty deep connection. Cool, man.
Yeah. People tell me, oh, you really can beat somebody up in capoeira. I say, no, you're missing it. The essential point of capoeira is to escape danger, not to stay in the fight and inflict damage. The main component of capoeira is to escape danger, not to be the big guy and hang around. If you have an opportunity to get out of a conflict,
it depends on the practitioner, right? Yeah, it depends on the practitioner. That's right. Yeah. It depends on whoever is practicing it. So,
ultimately, that's right. I'm not here to tell people. You're right, and I appreciate you getting me to correct myself.
No, you're not wrong. Yeah, but the same thing's true for politics too, right? I'm a socialist. Sure, you are, right? Yeah. Meanwhile, your leader's a millionaire, and you're out there, right, silencing all the poor people, and you're crushing all the workers and treating them like disposable assets. You're not, right? You're not as advertised. You know what I mean? But not saying all of them are like that, but so many of them are. Oh my God, right? So
politics,
right? Yeah.
They want to sell us profit, power, and control, but that's not what we want. We want truth, freedom, and health. Thanks, Dr. Shiva, for that. But that's
some
what the
capoeira places will run, right? Yeah, very traditional. Some capoeira places will run with a more modern style or reinterpret whatever in all kinds of wild, crazy ways. But I am glad to hear your philosophy on capoeira, which is you know, do you really want to hurt people, or, you know, hopefully not?
Well, you're right. Originally, capoeira was the black man's secret art form. Okay, so somebody looks like me would not have been allowed to learn capoeira. But there's a very interesting history on how it became one of the national treasures of Brazil, where it was outlawed more than once. And when I mean outlawed, they still have the papers the government signed banning the practice of capoeira, because after time it had been picked up by pickpockets and people who were, you know, small-time thugs were stealing from people. Its intention why it was created was perverted, and they outlawed it. But a guy named Manuel dos Rachados, I believe, Manuel Reis Machado, affectionately called Mestre Bimba, he was very good at capoeira, and he went to a governor and he said, "You're crazy to ban this. This is a national treasure of Brazil." So the governor said, "Give me a demonstration and I'll bring the other guys." So they got to see this demonstration, and they changed the law in Brazil. They had a couple of requirements. If you want to open up a capoeira academy, you register with the police department, and you're going to teach everybody without discrimination, whether they're rich or poor or whatever their color is. And that is the capoeira. Now, there are some capoeira groups where they're tough and they want to kill, and they're not, you know, but most of them, it's family oriented, brothers and sisters. Nobody wants to hurt each other. And capoeira is a dance. It takes two people. It's also called the dance of death and the dance of combat. All right. So, you know, they tried to open up some capoeira schools in Mexico. And one of the guys who did that told me, we didn't have any success because the Mexican culture is very macho, and they didn't think it was tough to learn a dance. Anyway, capoeira is the dance of combat, the dance of death, but every academy will run things differently. And some of them are, you know, they want to breed killers.
Capoeira is very flashy. Everybody, it's a real crowd pleaser. Capoeira,
yeah. Oh, slow.
And also, music element also brings. They used to actually, I don't know if you ever got down, but they used to have a capoeira get down at Union Square on Friday nights. Did you ever go
Oh
to that?
yeah, I love going there. I'm sure they'll have some this summer. They're still going on, man. And they
Did
help
you ever do that?
in Harlem. Today I was in Harlem on 125th Street, going to some really cool stores in there. African art stores, places selling shea butter. Do you know what they sell up in Harlem? Black toothpaste. I mean, like, I don't know if somebody just said this will be great for the tourists, but they actually have charcoal black toothpaste. And so, I mean, I got to buy some. But they're playing capoeira in the park every Sunday up in Harlem. And like I said, capoeira is not underground anymore, but it is under the radar. It's more popular in Europe. And the fun thing about capoeira is you can travel to other countries. You're totally welcome. You know, for example, Shanghai, Tokyo, they have capoeira. And the first time I ever saw people doing capoeira in New York, I had already heard the story that the slaves developed it in secrecy. And I thought, wow, that's an amazing story. It reminded me of Kung Fu, where the Shaolin monks took farm instruments like the nunchucks. And it was usually used to sheath the wheat. And instead, they turned it into a weapon. And that the monks wanted to protect the temple and that their scriptures and their books, and so they learned martial arts. And I heard that, and I liked that. And the capoeira story was really amazing too. But the first time I saw people doing capoeira, I went, garbage. They don't know how to do a spinning back kick. Take a look at some Koreans doing back kicks. Okay, they will jump on.
Kicks are crazy.
You seen the Koreans doing spinning back kicks? Nobody can do a spinning. You hear the uniform like that, and they amazing.
Capoeira kicks are very flashy. There's some.
Oh yeah. Taekwondo, but in capoeira, my mistake was I was looking at students who'd been doing it for 6 months or 2 years. If you want to see some real capoeira, see what's called a maestre, to translate a master. The capoeira maestres, you know, you can't go to Tiger Schulman and get your black belt. They call it a cord capoeira. They use a thick rope. They don't use a belt. You can't get your cord by paying $99 a month. In capoeira, there is no ceremony where you get your belt from that kind of institution. You grow and become a maestre by the community watching you. And eventually people are going to start calling you maestre. You know, they will start doing it. And then the other people, the people who are already maestres, will say, you know what? This person has what it takes. And then they can, you know, that's ideally. Of course, that's not always true. We have capoeira teachers who really shouldn't be instructors. They're maybe emotionally immature, but very tough. So there's, you know, it's humans. You know, we're humans. We make a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. That was actually a very, you know, I thought that was a really good episode. So I appreciate I really appreciate doing a second time. I really don't usually do that often. So it was cool to really.
We have an interview.
Another time.
I'm behind in releasing my interviews. I just interviewed a guy running for Congress a few days ago, and people go, where's our interview that we did? Unfortunately, you know, I have a manpower shortage, and I don't always do live streams. I always edit a little bit. I'm going to start doing straight up live streams without all the editing. But yeah, I have a bunch of videos that I should have released already. Even
I got backed up. Yeah, I just cannot really. I have so much footage that I need to come out with. I just said, screw it, I got to go live because otherwise it's just not going to get out there. So
that's it. We need to efficiency.
Maybe you have a cool project, man. Maybe I could be part of it. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, I do like my freedom. I do, but you know, I am looking to be part of something larger, and but it's got to be sustainable. So I think I agree with you. I think that there is potential here. I think that the 535 is a cool show. I've seen your editing already on the videos. It's pretty good. So you know you're a good captain because you know all the different parts together. And I think there's some potential here. There's no one really producing content like mine or yours that's really hands-on with the stuff, and really a lot of these other shows are just reacting to, they're playing algorithm games, but they're not original. But you know, the hot shit always comes from original new ideas. So the audience is dying for that shit, but it's because the algorithm's killing us. The thing is that we cannot count on the algorithm or other people to boost our shit. We got to start making our own networks. That's why the people that blackballed me, I'm on a war on blackballing them, but you can still work with them. I ain't mad, but I would hope later on, right? Yeah. There may be a day when I ask you to, right? Yeah. Because the way they made me suffer, I want to make them suffer. So I'm building my own independent network from the ground up. Yeah. New York City is the largest market in the nation, 8.5 million people. We have number one. I got a presence in number two, and I got people in Chicago. The first, second, and third largest markets in the nation. I got people in Florida. I got people in Arizona. I got people in Pennsylvania. There's no reason why we can't take over the market independently. And when we do, we'll have the most valuable product on the planet because we'll have our own independent audience. Everybody else is juking off each other. That's also their vulnerability. But you know what I mean? By having our own independent grassroots built shit, they can't fuck with it.
You know, talking about shadow banning, I used to be very upset about it. I just accept it, and I don't care about the numbers anymore. But last week, when I was using AI, I switched over to Elon Musk's AI, which is called Grok, and he chose Grok is supposed to be super intelligent, but has a sense of humor in the answers. And even there's been a few times where I instructed Grok. I said, I don't want your sense of humor or cutesy pop, you know, responses. Let's get to business. And so a couple of days ago, I asked Elon Musk's super AI called Grok to answer a question for me. Here it is exactly. I posted it on X. Grok, keep this simple. Do you believe X.com is censoring at LiveOne_TV? LiveOne.TV_TV's posts, that's verbatim. And Grok answered me, based on the available information, it appears that at LiveOne_TV's posts are being censored or shadow banned on X.com. And I know why I can tell you why I'm being shadow banned, because I put the only video in the world right now that you can find of Edward Snowden saying all our private records are being given over to Israel. That is top secret information, folks. And guess what else I released? The 5 pages that the National Security Agency used to negotiate that deal. They used, I repeat, only 5 pages, and only 2 people signed it. One from Israeli intelligence and one goofball named Keith Alexander, who was the director of the National Security Agency. When somebody told me that the US is giving Americans private records to a foreign country, I imagined there would be 15 or 20 lawyers working on that, producing an 800-page agreement. No, they used 5 measly little pages and handed over all your private data to be analyzed, my God, by a foreign nation. That's why I'm being shadow banned. Let them shadow ban me. It's it's the way it is right now. I keep on moving ahead, and they do their deep, dirty shit. Let them do it.
I'm going to build my own independent network of people from the ground up. So we'll have our own, niche audience. We might not be pop. We're not going to be pop. We're not going to be mainstream, but we will have the people that, exactly like you said, the small amount of people that live and die for this. They're all going to be with us, or they'll know that we're independent source, at least minimum, right? We're going to be sold out left and right. We're going to see Code Pink. Yeah, it's interesting. Cindy Sheehan, I sent you an email. Let's talk, Cindy.
Some of the activists are burning up. There was a guy who sort of seemed like a bit of a racist or whatever, Fuentes. And then I'm watching how these groups attack Nick Fuentes, Mexican, half Mexican American guy. I'm watching how these different groups are canceling each other out. I've had my eyes on James O'Keefe for a long time, and I've talked to him myself and talked to his lawyer, Jeffrey Lichtman, and stuff. What James is doing is quite different than, Focus 535, where we actually want to, it's kind of boring work, it's kind of like being a baseball team. We're looking at the farm team. In other words, the challengers who want to go in there, right? We need talent scouts. And there's already big lobby groups who are working on, not just the 2024 election, but probably the next 10 elections. They're already trying to farm people and grow them into being candidates, but they're all funded and they're going to be working against us. We have to define what liberty is, what it means to live in a free society, and find candidates who will support that. Personally,
Actually, that there is actually a small difference in you and my like philosophy on that particular idea as well.
okay.
I don't really the candidate thing is I do plan on running for county committee. As in terms of larger races and stuff, I think that even the candidates cannot protect the people, even if they mean well, without the people being mobilized. We need a higher level of political engagement just from the general population. Otherwise, I don't think that these politicians can even resist, the manipulations going on all by themselves. You get what I'm saying? So I don't think it's enough to run candidates. I think we have to really create a grassroots and build the just the overall change society itself to kind of be more politically aware and to engage. And exactly like you were saying, right? To like Nader was saying, right? To make a engaging program that's fun to watch, right? Yeah, seeing some new individual shit. That's exactly what people want to see because they're so starved of that reality right now. So the first person to really come out with a hot program that's watchable, that's fun to watch, that's saying something that no one else is saying. They're sick of reruns. They're so sick of it. They're so sick of Star Wars, Avengers, all this. They can't wait for some real shit. That's why Kendrick Lamar is blown up big right now. And I'm telling you right now that they're making a million fakes. They're duplicating our work. They're duplicating everything. As soon as you start to blow up, they're going to make a clone of you, right? Yeah, not right. Someone who's very similar to yourself, right? Yeah, saying all the same things. But they're going to be sexier. They're going to look better. They're going to have higher production values.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but you know what? The fact of the matter is that once again, that's why we'll never be pop. That's why we'll never be mainstream. But once again, the people that I've actually helped, the people that have bled and sweated with me, the people that I've been with, not the people that they gave me, they're not going to turn their backs on me easy. And you could see them rocking with me for years. I have a relationship with these people for years. I don't know if you watch my content, right? Like Reverend Keith Gadsden, Mark Safman, these people I know for years, so they will not turn their backs on me. So I'm set. So I don't need a million people. I just need my clique to stand strong with me, and I need to help that clique rise up. And we're just gonna go for it. Make sense?
How do you feel when people tell you, "Why don't you run in the next election?" Or
What good is it? First of all, I ran for office before. I've been elected before in student government. We were chargeable with $2 million. I made it. Some of the changes I made lasted to this day. But here's the thing: the fact of the matter is that, and this has happened to my boy rep my block, Theo Chino. I love that guy to death. I interviewed over 100 activists, and he's still my favorite one. But the thing is that, right, when I did the good things, right, yeah, all the people who was watching me was the grifters, the people who want to exploit those things for themselves. And I could even tell you right now, I ran for president at Hunter College right when I went back to school. And that was interesting because that was the year there was a mayoral race. So I was like, we could all combine the schools together and we could lobby, right, for refunding of CUNY or for, tuition decreases, and also to look at why, right, yeah, the administration is being paid so much, this kind of thing, right, cause and I revealed corruption. I actually did a expose of their books. But the thing is that sorry to say, but that's completely corrupted. And the thing is that so that like I do disabilities work, and there's an office there that actually makes like things more accessible for people with disabilities. They're there in the wheelchairs, and like they can go get like special printouts or special access to certain computers and stuff like that, right? Especially for disabled people. And I told them, right, yeah, I wanted to have a referendum because the thing is that there's something that the students pay called a student mandatory fee that at most schools go to fund the student government. But the thing is that the student government there is so corrupt that a lot of the academic and the sports programs actually went and clawed money, right? Yeah, contracts out of that money to go to their coffers, right? So the thing is that I said, let's have a referendum in the student body to actually bring, right? Yeah, that money back to the students, or students have to have another review of how the money's being spent. This did not pass, but later, after I left 2 years later, they had a referendum to destroy the disabilities department, which I knew, right? Yeah. So the people who they watched what I was doing, and then they weaponized the people who was watching what I was doing wasn't the people who was being helped. They just got help and said, "Yay, got help! Yay, yay, yay!" Right? Yeah. Sometimes I did get things to pass, and they don't remember me. It's okay, I mean, at least the change. Like we actually have the new bookstore at Buffalo that has in its charter, that's off campus, in its charter it must have lower prices than the university bookstore. We're guaranteed saving students money. There's still exists to this day. It's called Greeks and Sneaks. There's other things that I have set up that have still have lasting changes impact to this day. But But yeah, I'm sorry to say that these changes cannot, without the people being risen up. And a lot of times when you have a good leader in, what happens, it actually installs a sense of complacency amongst the people that should be fighting, and they don't learn to fight anymore. And it actually, everything that you achieved gets rolled back and actually becomes worse than before. So having a good candidate, and you're right, is that going to save you? I'm sorry to say, I can tell you from personal experience that the answer to that is no. You must have actually a strong successorship program. You must actually develop new talent. You can't be in there, oh, I'm going to save the day because I've been there and done that. It's a mistake. That's what I got to say about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I'm excited to work with you. You're one of my top activists that I've actually encountered. You're doing things in the local area. I'm very excited to hang out with you tomorrow. You're a great musician, and you're a good time, bro.
All right. Super duper.
Thank
Hey,
you
look
so
at
much.
this. I got, if anybody has their phone near them, I hope if they might be looking at this, but there's a QR. If you want to check out, there's a QR.
The YouTube space is good. Go to the direct website. I don't trust YouTube. I don't trust Twitter. I don't trust X. I
Yeah,
don't trust none
that's
of them.
right.
LiveOneTV, and sign up for the mailing list if you got one. I respect your work. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hit end.
some of
Yeah,
it's
go ahead. I'm going to end stream unless you want to say anything else. We could still stay on afterwards, but I'm going to end the stream. Is there anything else you want to say on this particular thing?
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see if people watch. I think that was like almost 2-hour session. That's cool. That's cool. It's not bad.
Yeah. I'll get the link and share it.